I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy to Canada? Look, we're not that rich right now. We owe $36 trillion. That's because we let all these nations take advantage of us. Same thing, like $200 billion with Canada. We owe 300. We have a deficit with Mexico of $350 billion.
I don't think there's any plans to invade Canada. Really, what you're seeing is a reassertion of American leadership in the Western Hemisphere, from the Arctic all the way down to the Panama Canal. America has avoided our own hemisphere, where we have the energy, the food, and the critical minerals for way too long. And you're seeing a reassertion of President Trump's leadership.
Okay, that was NSA Michael Waltz. Also, you heard from President Trump pointing out the imbalance between our overseas partners. The U.S. has been spending a lot of money, and we're not getting a lot in return. That's the president's position. Let's find out from O'Leary Ventures chairman, he's Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, what he thinks about the president, Kevin. He's about to sign 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum and reciprocal tariffs. What do you make of all this?
Well, those are two different baskets. Obviously, the one that people are talking about quite a bit tonight is India. They've got certain products, services, and different sectors up to 23%. Now we're going to have reciprocal tariffs in the U.S. against them. Modi will immediately fly to Washington. The negotiations will begin. It's the same everywhere. The Canadian situation is unique. Almost the entire $200 million deficit that the president's talking about comes from one single source. That's energy coming out of Irving refineries on the East Coast down to Boston. And all of that oil, 4.3 million barrels a day, coming out of Alberta into the West. And so that's the most inexpensive oil the U.S. imports. That's why he only put a 10% tariff on it. But it's the beginning of a giant negotiation. Aluminum, 70% of aluminum comes in the U.S. is made in Canada for one singular reason. The Canadians have all the power. Aluminum requires electricity. We don't have any grid left for electricity. So all of this, to me, if you separate the signal from the noise, forget the noise. The signal is, let's get an economic union together. The Canadians aren't going to sell the country. That's not really on the table. What is on the table that now 43% of Canadians want to explore more of, forget all these tariffs. Let's join the two economies, become a behemoth, common currency perhaps, and then take on China. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about security of the North, not the 49th parallel. Unfortunately, the one fly in the ointment right now is Trudeau government collapsed. He's not there anymore. So everybody's scrambling. We're waiting for the election in 90 days, when new leadership will be in place with a 4-year mandate like Trump has to negotiate all this. In the meantime, it's the premiers of provinces like Doug Ford in Ontario and Danielle Smith in Alberta that are taking all the heat and trying to negotiate this stuff because they're doing the most trading with the United States. All right. But you got to let the Canadians have an election.
Let me just back up. What could President Trump get in return for these reciprocal tariffs? We checked. China, the EU, Canada, and Mexico, they can slap anywhere from and have 20% to 25% tariffs on the U.S. Goods like cars and foreign products. The U.S. does not do that. I don't know if Canada would ever give up its currency, the loonie, but your point's well taken about being a juggernaut. What does President Trump want in return for these tariffs? Because Democrats keep saying this is going to ignite inflation.
Well, let me assure you that 11 out of 10 Canadians would rather trade their Trudeau pesos for American dollars. They already have American dollar accounts. Trudeau has wiped out 41% of their net worth in the last 9 years. They want an economic union because it's good for business. Everybody understands that. The two countries are so intertwined, and they both believe in democracy and free speech and freedom and all the rest. And they fought in all the world wars. It's the beginning of a negotiation.
Yeah, but wait, what can President Trump get for the American consumer and the American voter in return for these tariffs? What can the American voter get?
Complete independence and security on energy. Alberta has 5 times more oil and gas than the entire United States. Complete security on uranium, aluminum, all of the incredible resources Canada has with only 41 million people there, and access to it in a free flow, no tariffs. And that would become a behemoth, huge economy.
A behemoth, a juggernaut. Kevin O'Leary, that was interesting. Thank you so much. Really interesting stuff. Always good to see you, Kevin O'Leary.